Welcome back to Spoilers, man. The Avengers is about to, or just did, cross $600 million at the U.S. domestic box office. And I say that never would have been possible without tonight's guest, man. This cat I've always found insanely impressive. He's a writer, he's an actor, he's a director, he's the palladium in Iron Man's chest, man. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the great Jon Favreau. Doesn't it feel right? Conan, what is best in life?
I know. This wasn't in the invitation letter. They didn't have a picture of it.
I have been watching Iron Man, which you directed a few years back, on overdrive. I've recently fallen deeply in love with this movie, and this is my feeling. I think it's a perfect motion picture.
Wow.
Yeah,
From you?
I'm saying a lot from the guy who made Clerks. I know. That's. But still, I watch it. It's incredibly well put together. It's incredibly well cast. You were the first genius on the entire planet who ever said, I know, let's get Robert Downey Jr. for Tony Stark, man. Yes. And that's the linchpin.
That was the big, that was half my job right there, was getting him cast.
Explain, because it was an uphill battle?
It was, yeah. He wasn't, well, you know, now he's the biggest star in the world, right? But if you put yourself back to when it was announced, it was, you know, his track record was not something, you wouldn't expect his face on a Happy Meal, you know. At the time, it was, you know, find somebody, The Mask was the star, find somebody unknown, you'll make the star.
Right.
And go with somebody young, somebody cheap, and there was, you know, somebody enthusiastic. And with Robert, he was cheap and enthusiastic, but super talented. And Tony Stark, you know, is the one guy where you can actually cast somebody our age and tell a story about a person that's not in high school, but somebody who's lived a life and had problems and bounced back.
Credibility. From the moment that movie opens, you care about that world and it's believable, man. And when they get into the who is Tony Stark, it's flawless, absolutely
Well, thanks.
flawless.
We had like the frontline guy do it. We wanted to make that, when you see him getting caught, it looked like a hostage video. But it was, let's ground this as much as we could. And I think it opened it up to a big audience that wasn't necessarily just comic book fans. People's parents were going to see it. And when Robert came on board, all of a sudden, it became easy to get Jeff Bridges, Gwyneth Paltrow, you know, Terrence Howard. So it opened up a whole, it looked like an indie. You know, we come out of that world.
Yes.
Right? You know, we're both kind of Comic-Con guys.
You cast Iron Man like a Mirror
like we would have done back in the 90s. And there was no reason not to. I saw it as an opportunity. Let's cast it with the people that couldn't necessarily get anything greenlit but an indie film. And then you got that great resource to work with. And, you know, it's sort of it's so interesting being here with you because we share such a history. Because we're both Comic-Con, you know, geeky type guys. We kind of rode that wave a bit. Before then, we were both the indie guys.
Yes.
And Clerks was the film that made Doug Liman sit down with me and say, you know, why are we looking for a big budget? Look what they did for, you know, for what was it, 5 figures?
Let me ask you about that because I've heard this story for years, but I'm not going to say here's your chance to set the record straight. But you watch Swingers. And Swingers doesn't play like any other Doug Liman movie. Doug Liman, wonderful director. But I'd always heard the story that, like, directorially, you were kind of the guy talking with the actors on Swingers. Am I wrong? You wrote it.
You know, there was a lot of shared responsibilities. Doug was also cinematographer and cameraman. And kind of, you know, financier in a sense. So, and there weren't a lot of us on the set. So there was a lot of shared responsibilities. There was definitely a lot of, I had thought, if you had asked me at the time, I would say totally, I did everything. And then since I've directed, when I was really the director, it's a much bigger job. But I was fortunate to be able to contribute to it as a producer of sorts, as the writer, where a lot of it, you know, it really stuck to the script.
You have one of the best scenes, I feel, in the movie. Everyone goes for the Vegas, baby, Vegas.
Yes.
Your phone conversation scene is an absolute masterpiece in understated comedy, man. And that might have probably got you laid for life.
if only. With the same woman.
But
she's still getting laid, you know. You know, I learned a lot about, you know, about the way marketing works and the way audiences either show up or don't, and I've had both extremes. You can't judge your own work. You just got to keep working hard and try whatever tickles your fancy. And, you know, and I think, you know, we're both similar in that way. Is like you know, the medium doesn't matter. Technology is changing so much, so fast that look for different ways to distribute your work, different ways to monetize it, but always with the goal of expressing your voice and not trying to fit into somebody else's. I do online content now. I did like a really fun interview with Harrison Ford when we did Cowboys and Aliens, and Daniel Craig. Same type of format.
What was that like? Did you grow up watching
with
Harrison Ford in movies? I mean,
Dude,
Daniel Craig, whatever. He's a dude who got hit in the
still
nuts with a rope. But if you look at,
he's pretty cool dude too.
I'm sure he's very cool. But Harrison Ford is a piece of our childhood.
Harrison, not just Harrison Ford, but Harrison Ford is everything you'd hope he would be.
Is he really?
Based on
a stoner? Because that's what
played.
I hope he is. That's what I've always hoped.
You were late to the party. I think he sort of switched places.
He moved away.
He became a dad. But he'll have fun. I mean, he'll take you out drinking. If you're going to ride home in the helicopter with him and you got no family in town, you're going to the cantina with him and having a couple of drinks.
We've all had that night where we fly home with Harrison Ford.
But that's my point. It's like you are next to him and he's flying and you're Chewie.
He was on the skit?
Yes.
You were Chewie? That's awesome.
Yes. Because I was sitting next to him and I'm like, so there's no other, and he said, if I die, you die. I said, why do you say? He says, I'm just cutting to the chase. I know what you're thinking. And he was great, man. And you know, the first time he takes you, he takes it easy, and then he just starts trying to make you yourself. So
by the third time, he's like, punch it, Chewie.
By the third time, you know, it was cool. And then working for Steven Spielberg and Ron Howard. I mean, talk about just feeling like you're in a weird dream.
Now you're just showing off.
Yeah.
You did Elf, and that did like over 100 million. Did a lot of business.
Yeah.
But something like Iron Man, when that takes off, were you just like,
changed.
I'm done. I've done it. I've reached the top of the hill.
The first thing that happens, and whether it was Swingers or Elf or Iron Man, anytime where things popped harder than I thought they would, there's a weird crash you get. And I notice it with other people too, which is like, wow, everything came true that I thought, and I'm still the same guy, and I still feel the same way. But what you still hunger for is to connect with the people that you're making something alone, and you work hard on it for a year, 2 years, and you want to connect with everybody on it. And that was the real beauty for Swingers, because I was so lonely. It was after a breakup, and now even still on Twitter, I'll get things like, I just broke up with somebody, I just got dumped, and your movie got me through it. Those are the moments where it just crackles through.
The idea is this simple. When your one dream comes true, you're supposed to be satisfied and content and be like, it happened, and credits roll, and you're happy ever after. But what you find, the longer you stick around, we've been both lucky enough to stick around in business, you just start diversifying. Be like, let me try this. Let me try this. Let me try this.
Because you know, you get to hang out in the amusement park for a couple decades, and then you got to leave. So you may as well go on all the rides. You know.
Oh my God.
And you do. So, you know,
She tried. She tried to get everybody going.
You know, and if that gets a golf clap, I don't care, man. Because I meant it. I know we're way over, and you're just going to cut it down to you talking the whole time. However, when you were hosting Dinner for Five, I met J.J. Abrams, and that led to me working with him finally on a show called Revolution that's coming out, that I directed, that he produced with Eric Kripke.
You shot a pilot?
Shot a pilot. It's a cool show. It's about the power, all electricity disappears.
Right.
And then you cut to 15 years later, how everybody's, how society has changed, and people have gone back to this low-tech existence. It's pretty fun.
That sounds dope, but it also sounds like you owe me 10%.
That's right. That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the amazing Jon Favreau.